Welcome to Papillion Unscripted. I am Michael Severe, the place to go to hear from people who truly help make Papillion feel like home. Joining us this week, very excited about this next guest, been trying to get on for a while. She is a board member with the Papillion Vista Community Theater. She is Georgie Scurfield, joining us here. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Michael.
First conversation I had with you, I thought, we've got to get her on Papillion Unscripted because you are the most interesting person in Papillion. That's what I think.
That's true.
I do believe that. How did you first get involved in community theater?
I was invited by Jeff Nienhauser, who was the drama teacher at Papillion La Vista South High School, to join the board because he and others in the community wanted to create a community theatre, and they knew me because I had some knowledge of running non-profits. So they needed somebody who knew that piece. So
nothing to do with being in the theatre yourself or performing?
I have a daughter who's an actor. That helped.
Okay.
But other than that, no, I'm not a performer.
How do you think we have done in terms of the community theater? Obviously, we have the choir. We have so many parts to it. How do you think we've done in terms of arts and theater here in Papillion?
I think Papillion has concentrated in the last few years on recreation in various forms, which has been great. But the concentration has been on sports and athletics and fitness, and the landing is a wonderful resource, and I'm really impressed by the ability of the city to create that, and also to focus on downtown and to keep people coming to a small town, even though it's now a big suburb in lots of ways. Yeah. But I think we haven't focused on arts enough, although I do think there are some initiatives right now that are going to promote the arts much more in Papillion, and I think that's a very good thing.
You worry at all, because the schools, they're constantly obviously trying to have as much education part that they can have, taking so many classes, but at the same time we have kind of reduced both gym and art. That's anything extracurricular now, they've reduced it, but do you worry about that at all at that level?
I do worry. I think that we have such diversity in the community that we need to address what everybody needs. And one of the ways that we find ways to help kids particularly is through sports, and is certainly through the arts. The drama department at the high school is always the place where some of the oddballs kids find their place.
Sure.
And I welcome that. We should promote that. That's a good thing. And we need to give people a place where they can be expressive and creative and different, and yet part of the community.
Yeah, it's where you find your people, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of people find their people there. Yeah, most definitely. Do you have a favorite show that the community theaters put on?
I think our very first production at the Sumpter was probably my favorite back in 2007, when we put on Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, wow.
And Mark Thornburg was our Tevier. I think that was a fabulous production. But every time I fall in love with the show, not thinking that I will each year, and each year I love it. So
this summer it's Seussical?
Seussical.
Tell me about that.
Seussical the Musical.
Yeah.
So Seussical the Musical is a show that is based on the works of Dr. Seuss.
Right.
But although it's a child-friendly show, it's not a children's show. People should be aware that adults should come along and enjoy it too, because it has some depth to it that I certainly didn't know about, and a lot of joy. So that's one of the things one of the reasons we chose it.
Yeah.
We want to do something that will be attractive to the community and that they'll enjoy, but will also give some sense of belonging in our artistic community too. So we want actors and musicians and people who want to work backstage or make costumes or help with front of house to feel like they can be engaged in the project too. Are
there enough people? When you do shows like this, do you get enough people coming out to try out and be a part of it?
We do, and that's been great. But sometimes we have to balance choosing people who are very local and getting the quality we need. So we want people from all over the metro area to come, but we also want to focus on it being Papillion La Vista Community Theatre.
How did you end up in Papillion?
I married my Air Force husband.
Oh, okay. So was he stationed over there?
He was in England. We actually met 12 years before that, when I was an exchange student in Bedford, Iowa, in
No
high
way.
school. Yeah. So he looked me up and he came to England.
Wow, that's incredible. What part? Where was he stationed?
He was stationed at Mildenhall,
Okay.
which is in the in East Anglia, in the east part of England, and I was not anywhere close, but he gave me a call.
What did you think when you arrived in Nebraska?
I'd been in Iowa for a year, so I did have some understanding. I'd actually been to Omaha during that time once for a visit, and I'd been in Omaha again to see Star Wars when it was first out
In
in
1977? Wow.
When
where you saw it?
When I was visiting my family at Indian Hills.
Indian Hills, that's
yeah,
where everybody saw it. That's funny.
Yeah. So I'd been in Omaha twice. I didn't know where Papillion was.
Right.
And we were stationed somewhere else in the U.S. before I came here.
Okay.
So for us, it was a very good place to come because it was within reach of his family, so that my children would have grandparents, which was important for me, and family, and so that they grew up having that. And yet that we were close enough to the city, to Omaha itself, where there would be arts activities and things that were important to me that I wanted to bring with me. And also, it's been interesting being in Nebraska because I'm not always part of a political majority in Nebraska.
Okay.
So I've had my challenges to fit in.
I understand.
to fit in there.
Right.
So that's been an interesting part of everything, to have an opinion and to be able to express it and to engage respectfully in debate. It's been a challenge for me, but important.
You are one of the true great volunteers in this area. You would have been volunteer of the year 1 year. How did you initially get into that? Was that something that interested you when you first got here?
I think it always has, but I really believe that community is built by deliberate actions. That although we may fall into some community and become part of it, mostly we have to create it, we have to build it, we have to make a community that is diverse and inclusive and welcoming to a whole range of people. When I first came to the States as a military wife, I was really aware that I have great privilege because many military wives don't have English as a first language, had not been in the US ever before, and they arrived. And I recognized that I had enormous privilege, but it was still a journey to make. To give up your home, your family, your friends, and to make that trip across the water is still a big thing. So I had to deliberately choose to make this my home and this a community. And in doing that, had to build it. And I think that's where my volunteer drive comes from, that this has to be my community now. And so, and not just a community I have landed in. I have to choose it, build it, create it.
I remember years ago when I first found out about CASA and what the court-appointed special advocates do for children, and it blew my mind that these are many of them volunteers. And can you tell me how you got involved into that and the years you spent with that?
So for 12 years in the UK, I was a social worker in child welfare.
Okay.
Social work is organised a little differently in the UK, so it's much more of a neighbourhood base rather than a client base. But child welfare was my heart was in how we keep children safe. And so I was really interested in the CASA program, and I wanted to go back to school so that I could do my master's here in social work, which I did at UNO, because I wanted to, again, build some skills that would be transferable, would transfer to here rather than in the UK. In the UK, there was quite a social network that was available to people in poverty, which wasn't here, was not here, not available. There isn't universal health care, for example.
Right, sure.
And the first time I worked with a family who had lost a home because I had a child who was sick, I remember thinking, I have a lot to learn, because that would not have happened in the UK. So I came here, and in the first year we were here, I volunteered at the Sarpy County Court-Appointed Special Advocates Program, and was really interested in how volunteers could make a difference there. And what the volunteers at CASA do is volunteer after a short training to advocate for one child or one family of children who are in the child welfare system because of abuse or neglect.
Mm-hmm.
And they are often kids who have been removed from home because something bad has happened to them. And they need an adult who will consistently care for them throughout their child welfare journey. We hope that most kids will go home, that their parents will step up and do what they need to do,
Mm-hmm.
or get the support they need. Because the important part is that many of these parents love their children and want to do the best they can for them. But they're struggling with poverty, with lack of resources, with domestic violence or addiction, things that they need help to address so that their children can thrive. There are some where those children really need to be removed from their parents and to stay away,
Mm-hmm.
that those parents are not going to be safe. But the vast majority are parents who, with some help, can make a difference and parent their children. And the children need those parents. They don't need just any parent
Mm-hmm.
or a foster parent. They need their own parents so that they have the roots and the connection and the culture that they deserve to have and were born into. So what a CASA volunteer can give a child is that security, that persistent, kind, respectful advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
and give that child a chance to have someone who's in their corner when they are in a foster home they're uncomfortable with, or when they have a case manager they feel they can't talk to, or when they want to get brave and talk to a juvenile court judge, that they'll always have someone in their corner who will help them to express themselves and to get what they need.
Are we doing a good enough job funding that program and others to help these children?
I think CASA always needs funds,
Sure.
and I'm sure they would be happy
Mm-hmm.
to take donations, and they are, and they do. We're very privileged in Sarpy County because the county itself has managed to support that program through some ups and downs.
Right.
And I am immensely grateful to the Sarpy County Commissioners for their dedication to that program, and also the juvenile court judges who have been very respectful of the volunteers and will listen to volunteers. The one thing that makes a volunteer different from a professional is that they're not paid, for a
Right,
start.
sure.
And secondly, that in CASA, they just work with one family. They don't have 40 other families calling on them and requiring what they need. But so they may work with just 2 or 3 children and see them through some very tough times.
That's a remarkable person to take that on, be a part of that. Let me ask you about Papillion in general. Is there something in the town that you like to do, a place to go that you want highlighted? I always give people the opportunity to point out something about the city that they like.
You know, I was just talking this morning actually to somebody about how much I appreciate the mayor and the city council for having rebuilt Washington Street and downtown.
Oh yeah.
Because it is it helps Papillion have a heart, have a feeling of being a small town, even though it could easily have become a suburb of Omaha.
Sure.
And yet we are still Papillion, we're still here. And it's really that whole the business association for downtown, the Downtown Business Association, and others who, and particularly the city council and the mayor, who have managed to create that. The Papillion Foundation, who have, in partnership with the city, have been able to have Papillion Days and Winter Wonderland. And those events are, for me, coming from the outside, they are so important to have a sense of community, and again, deliberately built. I love, of course, the Sumpter, and endlessly grateful for that resource. But City Park and its little stage down there is fun too, sometimes. So I think that's great. I really, again, believe that we have to build the community we want. And I think we should be proud that we've managed to come so far.
Yeah, all that stuff you were describing, especially when it talks about downtown. I wasn't, not really in England, but I was in Germany, and there's those little villages or hamlets, kind of remind me of that, where you have like a barber shop or a cobbler.
Exactly.
And it's kind of almost old-fashioned a little bit what we have down there.
Yeah, that's right. It's wonderful, I think. I like it. I think we need more parking so that we can get people in and out. Yeah. Everybody says that. I know that. Yeah. I think it would be great if we could find space for a theatre, I think, or some indoor space as well as outdoor space to do some music venue or something. But kind
of like a Blue Barn.
Like exactly. One thing, wouldn't
cool.
that be great?
Yeah.
But something that would be, or even just somewhere where, the local band can play sometime, and we can do a movie night, or indoors as well as outdoors. I think that would be great. Whether that could be a whole arts centre somewhere near the landing, or it could be whatever we can come up with creatively, but I think there's a lot of possibilities.
Sounds awesome. Georgie, we appreciate it.
Thanks
for taking the time and coming in.
Thank you very much.
Join us again next time when we speak with someone who truly helps Papillion feel like home.